Yeah.
But what are some ways on Instagram someone can get some extra engagement?
Absolutely. So Instagram stories, in my view, is actually one of the most underused tactics still today.
Okay.
And the reason for that is if you look across the stories being shared by maybe some of the brands and some of your friends who are using it, people are not really figuring out how to use it in the right way yet. So they're using it for fun, obviously, to share moments of what they do, right? But actually, there are a lot of different strategies behind how to make your stories get seen more for free.
How do I create more useful content for my audience so that way they get to know me better and what I can do for them? Creating an effective social media content calendar is going to be a huge game changer for your business and your brand. So when it comes to building your brand online, you cannot ignore Instagram. Instagram have now over 1 billion users on this platform.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm sitting with a very special guest, Laurie, and digital marketing consultant.
That's
right.
You got it.
What does that actually mean, a digital marketing consultant?
Well, actually, for a lot of businesses, especially in the UK, that I've been working for a while, they don't really know how to use the digital channels effectively and to grow their businesses online. So one of the most powerful things that we can actually leverage nowadays is the internet.
Okay.
And using social media, using Google search engines, and also getting your business out there to be seen by more people is so effective.
Okay.
And a lot of times, I think businesses that are brick and mortar, currently on the high street, for instance, they don't have that knowledge yet. And what I'm doing is actually bringing that to them and really helping them to leverage the power of social, the power of digital, to get them to get more customers to be seen and actually get more people interested in what they do.
So I totally understand that. It's funny because I'm
Yeah.
working with a customer right now, they're a restaurant. It was so difficult to prove to them like, yo, you actually need a good website, you need a good social media.
That's right.
They were so focused on the day-to-day, on the business administration, that they didn't really focus on the marketing and expansion. How do you actually break it to some of your clients that, hey, this is actually really important? How do you break it to them? What's some of those main points that's like, okay, you need to do this because of?
Absolutely. So one of the things I always use an example of is imagine right now you're going onto a bus, right? You're taking a bus and you're looking around the people in that bus. When they're on their phones, what are they actually looking at or scrolling through? Most likely social media.
For sure.
Or they're looking at something they're searching for, right, on Google. So it's usually in that micro moment when they're on a public transport, when they're in public, and you realize actually that's where the tensions are. And attention nowadays is money. And also attention is where your customers could be. So you want to be where people are actually paying attention. And essentially that's where online is. And that's where mobile comes in. So the reason why I tell a lot of my clients, make sure you're actually present on these channels and actually actively engaging with them is because that's where you can catch their attention for them to think about you in the long term and to actually do business with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as a consultant, once you've explained that to them, they're on board now, they're working with you. Laurie, fantastic. We want to work with you. What's the process? What's some of the let's just say the first 3 things that you do with your customers when they come on board with you?
The first thing definitely would do an audit of what they currently have.
Fantastic.
So it might be, they have nothing, they want to start from scratch, or they have channels going on already, but they're not doing it effectively.
Okay.
And secondly, I want to actually, sit down with them to go through what their key objectives are. Because at the end of the day, without knowing how to measure it, right, how to measure your success, what's the point putting all that money behind it, all the effort?
For sure.
And then lastly, is looking at their audiences. You have to know your audience
Fantastic.
from the scratch.
I was thinking about this on my way here. Is it critical to know your audience before you even get started?
Absolutely. You need to
Really?
know who you're speaking to.
Really?
And otherwise, how are you going to be creating content that's useful for them or content that are engaging them?
Oh, because I was like, for some reason, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking like that whole know your audience,
Yeah.
fantastic. But I feel like that's more for me. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But
Yeah.
it's kind of a journey getting to know your audience. For example, when I first started out, I thought I was just going to do events. And okay, I'm going to do video production for events. But as I got more into like my craft and my knowledge and myself,
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm going to move more into like branding and corporate. So is it okay for someone to not know their audience at the very beginning? Or you suggest know it at the very beginning?
I think it's fine to have your audience evolve over time.
Okay, fantastic.
And we all evolve our businesses, right? I mean,
Sure.
everything we do, we don't always going to be sticking to the very end.
Okay.
But what you want to do is actually know who you're speaking to at that very moment.
Okay.
So you know who your audience is at that moment, and then you can always think about how you want to expand it or maybe niche it down a bit more as you go along.
Okay, fantastic. So even though as you're evolving, and maybe you might change, your business model or products or whatever, you still at every point want to know who that campaign is going through. Whatever. You still want to know your audience at every stage.
Exactly, because in the day you want to make sure that what you're doing is actually targeted.
Fantastic.
When you market to everyone, then you market to no one. That's all I always say.
All
You see what I mean?
I just want to take it a step back here. What's your favorite social media platform?
Well, you know where my favorite one is. That's where I live on all the time, Instagram.
I thought it was MySpace.
Oh,
I'm joking.
that really dates my age, guys.
No, okay. I knew it was Instagram. I tried to throw that in there.
I remember the days when Facebook was called the Facebook.
What was
Remember
it?
those days?
No, I don't.
Probably
I'm not that.
They came out in 2004, so you're probably still a baby then.
No.
I'm joking.
I didn't really hop on Facebook at first. I'll get into that later. So so obviously on Instagram, there's this feature, your stories. Question so Laurie, what's your story? How did you actually get into doing what you do now?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's a long story, actually. I used to be working in a very highly stressful corporate career in the city. So when I moved to London, I did LSE, obviously.
In the city, you mean New York City or London?
In London.
Okay.
So I started off in the city working in banking, actually. And I just found, within probably 5 years in my career, I didn't find it very fulfilling. And I just really craved something creative on the side. So that's when I just started to create a little website, which is essentially my blog now, where I document all the lifestyle things I do in London, the restaurants I eat out at, and places I travel to. So it actually started with a bunch of emails to my friends and family in New York and just kind of telling them what I'm doing. And then one of them actually said to me, Laurie, why don't you just put on a website where everyone can actually look at it? And this is when, blogging was actually still quite new. And I wasn't thinking too much about it at the time. I was thinking, yeah, why not? It's a good idea. So I just kind of scratched everything together, started learning about how to put a blog together, which is a whole different thing. Pulled my hair out for about a week and finally put it all together online. And that's when I started learning about how to promote your content using social media.
Okay.
And this is when social media was still new, right? People were still figuring out what Twitter was, what Facebook was. Instagram wasn't out yet.
So you kind of hopped on the trend before, when it was still at an early stage. But you said there was a moment where you was pulling your hair out. That's what I want to get into. So what was a difficult part of starting up?
I think starting a website without knowing how to do it technically is
definitely especially at that time, they didn't have Wix or anything like that, did they?
They didn't have Squarespace.
I'm not going to say that because you're not sponsoring this video.
Exactly.
I'm blinking all that out. That's your sponsor. Anyway.
But a lot of the website builders are now out there at the moment, at the time. So
how did you build it?
Well, I actually just started looking at tutorials on YouTube about how to start a WordPress site. And WordPress was the main thing at the time. Again, this is not sponsored by WordPress or anything, but I do love them as a platform organically, and I've been using them for all my websites. They might be sponsoring this in the future, though.
We'll see. Okay, so all right, so that's how you guys, and then you started doing this, and you put out your blog posts. When did you actually start to gain traction though? Because everybody thinks, oh, I want to start my YouTube channel, and I do that, and P. Diddy's gonna watch it next week. It's gonna be so big. When did you actually start to get traction from this?
To be really honest, it took at least 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's 2 years of you actually consistently creating content and sharing that with your audience, right? Because it takes time to build an audience online. And especially the time where it wasn't so instantaneously. We didn't have Instagram at the time where you quickly start growing an Instagram account within, let's say, a few months. Whereas with the website, it's more about organic traffic, building up all this organic blog posts that are getting search traffic across the web. So for me, it was a slow process, but it was a really great learning process. And I wasn't relying on it at the time. It was more of a side hustle, aside from my daytime job. But it taught me so much about how to use digital media and digital marketing effectively across the board. And that's when I started thinking about this area. Maybe this could be something for me here. So I spoke to a friend who was working in a digital agency in New York. And I was just asking about what he did. So I was really curious. And what do you actually do in digital agency all day? And he's like, you know what? Actually, I had a friend who just moved to London from this agency recently. You should go and speak to him for a coffee. And that's when I just got in touch with the guy. And I just thought, you know what? Going for a coffee, nothing to lose. We had a chat about what he did. And it sounded all really interesting to me. It's a whole different world to what I used to do. And then nothing came out of that chat straight away. But afterwards, he said, you know what, Laurie, and 4 months later, he's like, actually, there's an opening in our team. Would you be interested in coming and have a chat with my manager? And that's when I went in for a chat about the role. It's very, obviously beginner level role, given that I didn't have any background in the area. And they said, you know what, if you're willing to come in and start from the beginning, we'd love to have you because you have some, authentic client experience from your current role where you've been doing banking for a while and you liaise with senior managers all the time, right? So this is what they need in actually digital agency, someone to come in and have that interaction rather than just a new grad. So I went in and basically started the job, took a huge pay cut, and really challenged myself, essentially learning everything from scratch. But within a year time, I was quickly promoted, which is, thank God I was able to do that, and really grew my knowledge, in that whole digital marketing space. So a few years later, I decided to actually break out on my own and started my own consultancy business.
You decided to start your consulting agency, right? First off, why did you decide to take the leap?
Yeah, so at the time I was seeing what people were doing in the agency and they were doing it really well. But I really craved doing different, meeting different clients and actually trying different industries. Because obviously what I was doing at the time was mainly a B2B, kind of a B2C type of audience. But I wanted to try, maybe startups, different sizes of businesses out there. And one of the things I knew was that in the UK, there's a big shortage on, small businesses getting the help they need, especially when it comes to online marketing. So that's where I was deciding to kind of devote more of my time towards, so to work more with startups and smaller businesses across the board.
And then, so like, how was your actually getting clients at the very beginning then?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult initially, but what you want to do is actually have a buffer, when you're leaving your full-time employment, right? To give yourself enough time to adjust to it. So, for me, obviously, I need to make sure I have at least a year or two in the bank, or actually save them over the time to ensure that in case I don't get any clients initially, that can actually buffer me until the next payday.
No, so like, still, like, how did you get clients in the very beginning? Like, what were some of your strategies to reach out to people?
Yeah, so on social media, for instance, I've been building a brand for some time about what I do. And people, over time, as they see what you do and they see what you share, they begin to, like and trust and know you, right? Because that's what social is great for, is building that brand over time. And for me, to get clients initially is when I told people I'm starting my consultancy. And I have a lot of friends of mine who know other people who might need someone to help them. So that's where actually I got kind of word of mouth referral. And that's a great place to start because you always want to start people that you know. And they most likely have a common connection to you. So they're more likely to actually say yes as well.
Okay, so once you reach that level, like you've gotten past everyone you know, what were some of the strategies that you use maybe to this day to kind of promote yourself and reach out? Or do you do a lot of direct reach? Do you still use a platform? How do you actually go about getting clients now?
It's a great question. It's actually across all different platforms. So obviously myself on various different social media platforms I'm present on. So LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But also I have my own email list that I created a community over time on. So, obviously I offer them lots of value, lots of help. And at the same time, they know me now as a person, right? So they actually reach out to me with any questions, or maybe that friends and family, or even colleagues who might need me as well. In other agencies and other places I worked for before, they also have really great networks. So if they need someone to come in and maybe advise on a particular part of the project, that's where I get called too. So I also diversify my business now, where not only I just do consulting, but also I do training as well.
Fantastic.
So as you know, one of my most popular thing is that WeWork Instagram workshop I've been running. And obviously a lot of startups in the space, nowadays with Instagram being a very hot marketing platform, and with more than half the followers on there following a brand, right? It's a great place to be for startups to actually start getting traction. So that's why I also teach now in part of my time. So kind of between consulting, teaching, but also strategy.
All right, so that's actually one of the things I want to jump into, right? So, all right, would you mind turning on your phone, please? We're gonna do this live.
Okay,
Live right now. Actually, I have a couple more questions set up, but we're gonna do this because
fantastic.
it's my show on. But can you just go on Instagram real quick, please?
Okay,
All right.
fantastic.
Can you just do the search button real quick, please?
Yeah.
All right. Can you search in A-M-M-A?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm right there. All right. So when you go on my Instagram profile, what's missing? What's missing?
That's interesting. Okay. So having a quick look at your For instance, I think in terms of your hashtags, you could be using more. That's one thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, this is personal preference, but I always tell my clients, when it comes to looking at hashtags, if they give you allowance up to 30, why not use 30 to actually maximize your exposure, right? And the same thing for you guys who are watching this. Make sure you are using the right hashtags, targeted hashtags that are getting your content seen by the right people. There's no point using really general ones like hashtag girl or hashtag summer when all you get are just Instagram bots commenting on
So
them.
use all 30 hashtags. Go to the limit. Okay.
And do some research on this, on which ones are actually relevant for you.
Oh, for sure. Okay. And how do you do the research? When you hashtag and let's just say hashtag hustle is gonna come out. Hashtag hustle is like millions. Like I don't know. How do you do the research on the hashtag?
Yeah, that's right. So one of my tips is definitely look at hashtags that's less than 300,000
Oh, less than 300,000.
posts. Because when you're looking at over 1 million posts on
it's
there,
gonna-
your content's gonna be lost within 2 seconds. Right? People are posting literally every second at a time. So you want to make sure that you're getting seen, but at the same time getting seen within a smaller group of people as well who are targeted.
Okay.
So that's why your research comes into play.
Okay.
And when you're looking at one hashtag, the next one will pop up within that suggested section in Instagram anyway, when you're doing the search bar. And that's where you get some other inspirations as well.
Okay.
So, but it is a long process. I'm not gonna lie, Instagram takes a lot of work.
Okay.
But if you're putting the work, if you're willing to do it every day consistently, you will see results from it.
Okay. So 2 things I got from that. So 30 hashtags. Use all 30 hashtags and research the hashtags. What else do you see is going wrong?
That's right. I see that you're using youtube.com as your locations. That's absolutely fine. But I would say try to use some of the actual location that you're in at the time for the filming or something that you're actually doing. The only reason is because, see, for instance, this one you're using Freemasons Hall. It's fantastic. Because other people who are going there, you want to be exposed to people who are on your location as well. That's an additional level of exposure for you. So why not, right? Making sure you use all of Instagram's features really helps to get your content out there more. And also it makes them feel like you're a real person. You're not just a spam account, just sending out content.
And question, I actually post 3 at a time. Do you think it's good to post 3 at a time, or you think it's too much?
It's a personal preference, but I do feel like with Instagram nowadays, the way that they're promoting their content on the algorithm, right? You're usually seeing content from a day or 2 days ago sometimes. So if you're doing 3 at a time, then your audience will be bombarded with 3 things at the same time. So then they need to choose on which one to engage with. But the good thing about this is what I see is you're doing a little story reel across each 3. So each 3 is relating to this one person that you actually interviewed. And I think that itself is really cool because it's giving a little kind of storytelling. And there's a purpose to 3 at a time.
Yes.
So that
2
makes
clips
sense.
and 1 photo and
Exactly.
photography. And so I kind of use and then as you go down, it's like
Yeah.
I'm kind of embarrassed about this one.
No.
About this one. Yeah. But yeah. All right. Fantastic. Thanks for that. And keep your phone there because I'm gonna do something else as well. Cool. But thanks for those little tips. So 2 quick tips right there. She's a professional. And then all right. I went on your website.
Okay.
And you also talked about this earlier. You said you have your newsletter.
That's right.
So not newsletter. You did say newsletter, but email list.
That's right. Yeah.
So I do.
Love it.
Type in my email, so right.
Yeah.
And then you immediately get 7-day social media strategy class, right?
That's right. Yes.
So I don't want to go into all 7 because you guys can do that, right?
Yeah. LaurieWang.com. Check it out.
Fantastic. But I'm gonna go to 3. I want to see all right. I'm gonna go to 3.
Okay, great.
So the first one is why social media and how to link it to your business. All right. So why social media?
It's a great question. So that's the one thing that I ask a lot of my potential clients when we have our consultation. Because a lot of times people come to you and be like, I want to build my social media up. I want to use a social media thing to get more business. And you're like, okay, so why are you using it in the first place? Do you know your reason for it? And a lot of times, just by being on the platform is not enough, right? You need to have a strategy. You need to have a reason behind it and how you're going to measure this. So is it to drive traffic to your website? Is it to get some leads and inquiries, right? Is it just to get some brand exposure, maybe getting more people to know about you? Or is it maybe to capture them on the email list like I'm doing, right? So you need to have a reason for it. And therefore, when you have a reason, then you can create a strategy that makes sense behind it.
Question, why are you using social media then?
Well, it's actually a mixture. So of all the things I just mentioned, not only I want to build more brand exposure, people knowing more about me, right? But at the same time, I want to actually capture the information. So when they actually come into my website, they can become part of my community. So by you doing that, joining part of my email list, getting a free course out of it, which is fantastic because I get to educate you at the same time, is that now you're part of my community, and it's great to have you.
You know what? Like, so when did you? You said you were born in China. When did you? At what age did you move to New York?
Yeah, so I actually call myself a bit of a third culture child. I'm not sure you ever heard that concept before.
No, I haven't.
It's really interesting. So these are the type of people who are born to their motherland, right? And they grew up there for a while. And then they moved to another country as immigrants with their family. So then from China, I moved from about 10 years old to New York. So where I lived from 10 to about 22 or so with my family there. And then obviously I did a year abroad and ended up staying in London. So from 22 to now I'm 32. Date myself a little bit, unfortunately. So that's a third of my life, right? In each country. So I think in a way that's sort of having that third culture aspect where you're kind of influenced by all three places.
The reason why I asked that because I lived in Shanghai, right?
Yeah.
And what you said is my community. Now, you're familiar with WeChat.
WeChat,
For
that's
sure,
right?
right?
Yeah.
The way WeChat is set up and Instagram and Facebook is totally different. So like from my perspective, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube is all about building a following.
Yeah.
Come follow me. Come see what I'm doing.
That's true.
But like WeChat is like, let's build a community. It's the
Yeah.
groups,
That's
you know.
right.
So you tapped onto something. I think you brought a little bit of your culture back here, and it's working because you call it your community, not your
Yeah.
following. I
That's
just call into that.
I mean, I totally agree with you there because that's the one thing I feel like on social people can do better of. It's the people who are following you, they're in your tribe in a way. You know, you want to make sure to give them something that's useful for them. Think about what can I do for others rather than what can they do for me. They need to like my photos, to share my things. But actually think about what makes it useful for them to share. What makes it useful for them to actually want to like in the first place. Right? That's a great perspective shift.
Yeah, that's really dope, man. See how that international mind just works.
I love that.
And then, secondly, how to get extra engagement on your social for free. I kind of went through some of your work, so I understand. But what are some ways on Instagram someone can get some extra engagement?
Absolutely. So Instagram stories, in my view, is actually one of the most underused tactics still today.
Okay.
And the reason for that is if you look across the stories being shared by maybe some of the brands and some of your friends who are using it, people are not really figuring out how to use it in the right way yet. So they're using it for fun, obviously, to share moments of what they do, right? But actually, there are a lot of different strategies behind how to make your stories get seen more for free when it actually comes to, you know, using the right hashtags, for instance. So on stories, you can actually use up to 10 hashtags, believe it or not. And that's 10 hashtags that people can actually be following on Instagram. And you can get exposure to more people who are not following you at the moment. And using location, right? Like I mentioned earlier, when you use location, the place that you're in, that you actually shot the story at, that makes a great way to get more exposure. And when you tag the right people who are involved in that story, so it could be, for instance, you're in a hotel and you're taking a story of, I don't know, their food or something. If you tag the hotel's Instagram handle in there, it gets your story seen by more people too, because it just tells Instagram, look, I'm mentioning brands in here, and this is actually a legitimate story with all the right features.
Their algorithm is going to push that story.
Exactly.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Using videos, for instance, again, getting pushed more to more people. Again, people just love videos nowadays, right? On any
I'm gonna
platform.
quote that. Y'all gonna put that. That's gonna be like my main banner on my website. People need videos.
People loving videos. You're in the right industry, man.
I was gonna ask that later on, but I guess I asked that now. Like, how important is Amadeus and his services? I'll leave it to that. How important is video?
Of course, I mean, video marketing is all the rage nowadays. If you look at any social media platform, you gotta be on video, right? Algorithms are pushing for that way, especially live videos. That's another thing that people are trying to get comfortable with. It's not the easiest thing, I agree, but in the coaching that I do with a lot of my clients on social media, is you have to get comfortable in front of the camera.
For sure.
And also, it doesn't cost a lot to do videos as well, right? If you want to do,
If you're working with me,
you can cut that part out, but
if you work with me, you have to cost us some chatter. But okay.
yeah, exactly.
But you know, you're right. It's not a lot to do video. I mean, obviously these cameras now they're pretty good. You know, from the phone. But yeah, you're right. Video is I talk about that a lot on my channel, so you can go into that a little bit more. I wanted to hear it from the professional. But then I want to talk about this last topic from your 7-day social media
Okay, great.
strategy class. Again, which you can just go on the website, link below, and type in your email, and you're gonna get this for free. Making your brand look amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So just lay it on me. Like, what are you going to discuss?
Yeah. I think the one thing that I feel like, my husband and I, we're quite into this is we're blessed with, I guess, an eye for design. And design nowadays on social media is so important, right? Because you as a brand, when you're looking consistent across all platforms you're on, whether it's the right profile image that you're actually using, the right color scheme for your brand that you're currently using, so everything has to look consistent, that makes a huge difference in the way that people see you and perceive you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think personal appearance as well, for like, is important for your brand? For example, like I stick to a color scheme.
Right.
I stick to literally a personal color scheme. Do you think that's going a little bit too far, or do you kind of have that as well?
Not at all. We all have it. If you look at my Instagram account, most of the colors I'm wearing are either black or white or gray. So it's very monochrome.
Yeah, modern color, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have a consistent brand, and color to it, people recognize you more.
Sure.
I know someone who, have yellow as their primary color, and it's a bright.
Bumble.
Not Bumble. So anyone knows Emma Gannon out there? I love her brand, also her consistency. But she uses bright color a lot in what she does, and she says actually just brighten people's days. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's been an amazing experience.
It's been a pleasure being here.
Simon, I want to say thank you. He's in the back. And,
behind the scenes.
I kind of like to acknowledge my guests. When they come in here. First off, I can tell you're very focused, very driven.
So are you, Amadeus. I love all your aspirations behind your video creations and why you do what you do. So.
And one thing I got from you is that you're like a sponge. You know how to take information, and not just a sponge. You take information and you know how to direct it into the right places.
I see.
That's one thing I got from you. Like I mentioned, the whole what's that called? Not following. What word did you use? Community.
Yeah.
You took that information, you kind of molded it to serve you. So you know how to take information and mold it to your advantage. And yeah, you're well traveled, brilliant. You have an idea, you execute it. So that's one thing I've learned about you. So
thank you
for coming along. And last question I'd like to ask.
Yes.
A few last questions I'd like to ask all of my guests. Patience or urgency?
Patience. That's one thing I learned to gravitate more towards. I think urgency was the word before.
Okay.
But now I learned that patience and consistency is what builds success in the long term.
Okay. If someone, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't see, right? They couldn't hear, right? How would you describe yourself?
Interesting. I think I've described myself with my laughter. Oh, actually, they
can
couldn't hear.
hear.
That's interesting. Okay. Couldn't see. My smell, then, I guess. That's the only one left.
Okay.
You can't taste me, so smell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a really good answer to that in one of my other interviews, but you'll. I just said I pretty much just said.
Yeah, cut that one out. I think that wasn't great.
So I'll give you. So it's a sensory question.
Okay.
How can someone pretty much feel you? Like, yeah.
I think it's the energy level. I guess.
Energy.
It's about. Again, I believe in the fact that we all send off vibrations of what we aspire to, right, in this universe. I mean, not to get into too much detail, but when it comes to being next to someone who's super ambitious and also just the same wavelength as you feel that in a way, and you connect to them straight away. So it could be the energy level as well.
Your one word that you think describes you in your outlook of life. For me, it's greatness.
My one word. So many words I want to use actually in my mind. Passion.
Passion.
Yeah, that's the one thing that drives me.
All right, so before I let you go, would you mind just explaining your social platforms? You can list all 20 of them.
Oh yeah, exactly. Make it simple for you guys. On Instagram and Twitter, it's both at I am Laurie Wang. So Laurie, that's my first name, Wang, last name. And on Facebook, it's just Laurie Wang, very simple. So facebook.com/Laurie Wang. And LinkedIn as well, you can just find me in the search bar and you'll see me pop up.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Lots of fun.
Make sure you subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. Remember guys, be great.
Be great.
Cheers.